1 week away from the start of Steelers' mandatory minicamp, and we're still waiting to find out whether Aaron Rodgers is interested in playing quarterback for Pittsburgh this season. That guy sure does like to keep us in the dark, as it were. Welcome to NFL Live. I'm Dan Graziano, here today with Tim Hasselbeck, Sam Acho, and Jeff Darlington. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but I did want to start with that particular saga. Jeff, what's the latest? Give us something new on Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, really? You just want me to tell you that he's signing, Dan? You want me to just tell you that he's on his way to Pittsburgh? No, I can't do that because, quite frankly, he's not. And that's kind of where we're at with the Aaron Rodgers drama. Now, I will say this. All signs continue to point to him eventually joining this team. I say that in part because of a lot of the things I've heard behind the scenes, but also publicly and front-facing. You have heard Aaron Rodgers say in that clip right there, I don't want to hold the Steelers hostage. He has done nothing to this point to suggest to the team that he is out on playing quarterback for them. And I'm not suggesting that means that he will just simply sign because of that. But this is a player with a deep respect for Mike Tomlin, a continued communication with Mike Tomlin, a player who has worked out with DK Metcalf at times this offseason, trying to acclimate himself to the wide receiver, and has also hinted that he will be playing for the Steelers. What does that mean? It means nothing in terms of minicamp. Perhaps I think the benchmark we should be looking more towards still at this point is training camp.
All right, so Tim, is that good enough? If he doesn't show up until training camp and he wants to be the starting quarterback of the Steelers, is he going to be ready in time?
Yeah, I think it's good enough. Look, I think when you get to the point where you're over 40, you've played, a couple of decades in the NFL as a quarterback, a team's pursuing you, you're their best option. I think that's good enough. Is it the best possible scenario? No, it's not. The best possible scenario that he's in Pittsburgh working out, leading, building a rapport with the guys that are there, all of that stuff. But it's just not realistic with someone that's played as long as Aaron's played. And so I think what the point Jeff made that really stuck out to me there is the deep respect for Mike Tomlin. I do think that, the way Aaron Rodgers has gone about this with Tomlin, that communication, and I think what, at least to me, feels like a shared understanding that he will be there at some point. It feels to me that both Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and anyone else that matters would be okay with that, and I think that that's probably good enough.
And I love the point that you made, Tim. You said anyone that matters. In this saga, this situation, the people who matter are Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, and then ultimately his teammates. Those teammates want Aaron Rodgers for week one, and they understand that for week one, you'd like to have him there by training camp. Organized team activities, Aaron Rodgers may argue, aren't necessary. Minicamp, he also may argue, isn't necessary. Tim, as you know, you go through OTAs, you put the same install during mandatory minicamp, then you go through the same install during training camp. And yes, it would be nice for Aaron Rodgers to build that rapport, or to have that time with his team beforehand, but obviously that is not the case. And so as long as Aaron Rodgers is signed and on that team by the time training camp starts, or even a few days after training camp, as long as you get him by week one, you're going to be happy. Now, as soon as he starts saying, okay, maybe I'm not coming, you don't have him, that's when the bigger scenario happens, because then you need a plan B if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, so what would be plan B? I mean, Tim, we've heard talk about Kirk Cousins and still possibility that the Falcons might trade him if the right deal comes up. Would he be a better option than Rodgers at this point?
I don't think he's a better option than Rodgers. One, it'd be way more expensive than Rodgers. I can't imagine, Rodgers' contract, especially with probably a one-year deal, you would think, versus, Cousins, you're assuming his contract. There may be an acquisition cost to that. That one just feels messy to me. So is he a better option than Rodgers? I don't believe so. Now, is he a better option than Mason Rudolph? I think you can easily say he would be, from a playing perspective, but then you factor in the contract perspective, again on it. And, the idea that you would probably be assuming Cousins' contract, not just for this season, but, going beyond that. So, look, I understand the thought process on Cousins. I think he can still play at a starter level. He's not going to find that in Atlanta. But the problem is, it's messy and it's expensive for a bunch of different sides. And by the way, it has to be something that Kirk Cousins wants to do because he has a no-trade clause.
Yeah, a lot of complicating factors there, no doubt. Jeff, the quarterback situation is not the only thing the Steelers are dealing with right now. So take us through a couple more of their issues, starting with a visit by Gabe Davis.
Well, it is connected, of course. Gabe Davis, the wide receiver who flamed out really with the Jaguars, did not have a very good tenure there, albeit a very short one, after playing really well for the Bills. Now, all of a sudden, we're looking at a visit from Gabe Davis to the Steelers on Thursday. The question, of course, here is, would Davis be willing to sign, not knowing exactly who the starter will be in Week 1, if it'll be Aaron Rodgers? He's probably the best free agent out there, and he does fit, quite frankly, what Arthur Smith would want to do on that offense. It does make sense if this actually ends up being a marriage. TJ Watt contract, still something that we're focused on. Maybe a little bit on the back burner, but he really hasn't been at OTAs so far this offseason. Very curious to see if he shows up to minicamp. That would imply, if he does not, that he is serious about getting this new contract. We know he's serious about it, but how far is he willing to take this? He would face fines if he doesn't go to mandatory minicamp, and obviously it would also imply that perhaps a training camp holdout is also in play here. Watt has made very clear, in fact, his brother J.J. Watt on our air has made very clear that there will be no hometown discount from T.J. Watt. Watt wants to get paid to stay with the Steelers.
Our Bears reporter Courtney Cronin has been around the team during all these offseason workouts. She joins us now. Courtney, what else can you tell us about what went on in practice today?
Graz, I think picking up where we left off 2 weeks ago when I joined you here on NFL Live is a good place to start, because it centers around Cole Kmet. He was the center of a play that was blown dead because he was aligned just about a yard off. So it's not like a huge miss for Kmet, but obviously there was something that Ben Johnson saw during that play that he wanted to make this team do over again in a 7-on-7 drill. And Kmet said, well, I was kind of cheating myself out of getting the ball on that play. So they blow the play dead, they run it again. Johnson comes up to him afterwards and says, hey man, I was trying to get you the football. And that's kind of been this common theme here, what I've been watching for at minicamp today. It's Johnson going and correcting the little details. Kmet told me that it's not because he's not happy with a player or doesn't like somebody. He just wants to win and he wants to strive for perfection. That's something that DJ Moore says has caused him to have almost this internal dialogue with himself when he's going through plays. Did I execute that to the highest of my ability? Was I slacking on this, or did I run it perfectly? Players know that they're going to hear the whistle if that perfection is not achieved, but also knowing that this is the offseason, mistakes are going to be made, and Johnson dealing with the push and pull of that as they get ready for day 2 of minicamp on Wednesday.
Courtney Cronin always delivering perfection as our eyes and ears at Bears minicamp. Thanks, Courtney. Tim, so much about what's going on in Chicago this offseason is about learning. New head coach Ben Johnson with Caleb Williams, the quarterback. Where should they be in that process at this point in the offseason?
Well, they're on the ground floor. They're starting from scratch. I mean, that's where they're starting from. It's brand new. Now, that being said, you'd like to think that Caleb Williams is, probably on his own time, maybe started to get immersed in some of it, and to Courtney's reporting on the details of it. Look, you're really you're getting the terminology, you're getting the basics. But what is key is that you're learning the finer points along the way, because, look, you've heard people say it's a game of inches and all of that. Like, that's why the finer details matter. So it's going to be new for Caleb Williams. He'll be under center. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of shifts, bunch of motions, things of that nature. There'll be, tempo plays. There'll be all of that stuff. And it's just going to come in time for the Bears. The way it typically goes is you go as fast as the players can pick it up, and it really starts with the quarterback, and that's how I anticipate it happening in Chicago.
Acho, what do you think these Bears can actually accomplish this year? You look at the division, the other 3 teams made the playoffs last year, but the Lions, a lot of change on the coaching staff. J.J. McCarthy, an unproven quarterback from Minnesota. Is there an opportunity for Chicago?
It's an opportunity, but it's definitely small. Imagine like an elevator that's closing. You're trying to run and try to get in before it closes. That's what this division is like. The Minnesota Vikings have a question mark at quarterback. Last year, Sam Darnold played outstanding. This year, J.J. McCarthy, it's an unknown quantity. The Detroit Lions, yes, they lost both coordinators, but they also just lost their all-pro center, Frank Ragnow, to retirement. So there's some question marks with Detroit as well. There's a small window with Ben Johnson and also with Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears team, a window for them to try and step in and compete for this division. But if Minnesota all of a sudden gets talented and all of a sudden JJ does what people expect him to do, and if they find a replacement for Frank Ragnow, it could prove to be another struggle of a season for the Chicago Bears. You heard of the reports about Caleb Williams, some of the frustration in the draft process. That's not exciting news if you're a Chicago Bears player or Chicago Bears fan. And so, yes, there's a small, slight window or elevator, if you will, but it's closing, and it's closing very quickly.
Yeah, everyone just wants optimism this time of year. I mean, like, the reality is they have optimism because of all the things that, Acho is talking about in terms of changes in Detroit and, new quarterback in Minnesota, all of that. But, in saying that, it's also very realistic to look at them and say, look, if you're going to, rank the 4 teams in the NFC North, where do you put the Bears? I think it's difficult to not put them 4th on the list as you look at them right now. Obviously, it's why you play the games, but to Acho's point, look, the division's tough. The division's really tough. So, look, in some ways, you look at it, you need Caleb Williams to be really special.
Time to read and react to the latest buzz from OTAs around the league. And we start in Seattle, where new quarterback Sam Darnold is getting used to a new offense. Our Seahawks reporter Brady Henderson posting this from the first OTA that reporters were allowed to see. An up-and-down day for Sam Darnold, who was intercepted twice in a short span during 7-on-7 period in the red zone. So, Tim, what are the Seahawks going to do? They obviously can't go with Darnold now. I mean, this is a complete disaster, right?
Can you rip up the contract, Dan? 2 interceptions and 7-on-7 in June? I mean, hopefully he shows up to practice tomorrow. I don't know. Like, normally we do overreaction Mondays during the season, but we can do, overreaction Tuesdays right now. Look, you never know the scenarios in these things. You also never know what they're trying to do. You have a lot of young guys in there, oftentimes, running wrong routes, things of that nature. I think Darnold in Seattle is a great match. I think he ends up playing well for him.
Yeah, pretty good chance he bounces back from a couple of June minicamp or OTA interceptions. I know you quarterbacks like to stick together, so here's Joe Burrow, presumably in support of Sam Darnold, throwing an interception in OTAs today. So, I don't think we're too worried about how Joe's going to play this year.
It's probably his small hands, Dan. It's small hands.
Yeah.
It's probably why he's throwing the interceptions. If he played better, they'd be a playoff team. He told us that.
That was bound to catch up with him eventually. It's a shame that he couldn't make it in the league. To New England next, where Ramondre Stevenson says that with the return of Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator, what's old is now new again for the Patriots.
I'll say I'm very comfortable. Just looking back through it, Josh and Bill Belichick yelled at me a lot my rookie year for this same playbook. So I kind of got it drilled into me. Just need to, just go over it a little bit more.
Sam Acho, I feel like this question's probably been asked now for decades, but how can the Josh McDaniels offense have success in New England?
Well, all right, also better question. How about this? What will teams be watching for in this Josh McDaniels offense? To your point, they're not going to be watching the Patriots of the last 2 years. They'll be looking at this team back in 2021 when Josh McDaniels was the OC. And so Ramondre Stevenson, he kind of jokes about getting yelled at as a rookie. But just keep in mind, the defenses that are preparing for this Patriots offense aren't watching necessarily Drake May fully from last year. They're going to watch the scheme from a few years ago when Josh McDaniels was the OC.
See how it goes in Drake May's second year, first year opening the season as the starter. To Green Bay now, where quarterback Jordan Love was asked about taking a step back last year. He didn't seem to like the question. At the end of the day, he said, I'd say we won more games than we did the year before. So that's why I ask people, what is a step back? Everybody has opinions and things like that. You try to block that out and just focus on doing me, being the best player I can be, and go forward. At the end of the day, personal stats and things like that, that's all in the back. You've got to focus on goals of the team first and foremost. So, Jeff Darlington, armed with the knowledge that Jordan Love is not paying attention to what you say, in your opinion, did he take a step back last year?
He's great. He does everything so perfect. He's going to win the Super Bowl. No, I'm kidding. Listen, I think that it's important to point out, first of all, that his passer rating was actually slightly higher this past season than it was the season before. I also think that anytime, we're in a very unique situation with Jordan Love because he actually only started as the face of the franchise for one full season before getting that monster contract. And I think that sort of oftentimes changes expectations of a quarterback. So it's not like he had his rookie year like C.J. Stroud, then fell off a little bit, and everybody wonders or just gives him the excuse. With Jordan Love, he got paid, and as such, he's going to be under the microscope. I think that Jordan Love, to be clear, Jordan Love, if you're out there, you're going to be just fine.
He said.
Because you care, what I think.
He's going to be just fine. I think that's a good assessment. I'm sure his confidence is high now. Look, I would just say this. Like, when you reference expectations, Jeff, I think you're exactly right. Because he played well, expectations were high. Finishes, the previous season on just a touchdown tear without turning the football over. And then he goes into last year, gets hurt early in the season, has receivers get hurt, has receivers drop the football, and all of a sudden, panic should set in. That's really not what's going on in Green Bay. I think he could have a similar year to what he had this past year, and Green Bay be right in the mix because they'll probably be better defensively, and they'll probably be even better around him than they were a year ago.
Yeah.